On YouTube, there are a lot of videos regarding filmmaking. Now, some of those videos by nature are just gonna be not truthful or have some partially false information, and some are just gonna be outdated. It's old news, we've discovered new stuff. That's just how life goes. In this video, I want to talk about 5 filmmaking lies that you've been sold on that aren't quite as cut and dry as you may think they are or as YouTubers tell you that they are. Now, first, I want to talk about 10-bit color. For the most part, 10-bit color is pretty useless. If you're trying to really nail the look of a brand, it's definitely useful. But as long as you have exposed your shot right or you're shooting in log, 8-bit will be fine. But more particularly, I want to talk about 422 color sampling. And I've just found that I would rather shoot it in 8-bit 422 than 10-bit 420 because it's getting extra coloring out of the image, and basically it gets more color resolution in terms of being able to separate different colors. Now, 10-bit does this as well, but in a very different way. And if you're curious on what color sampling is, there are tons of videos on YouTube. I suggest you go watch one that's more lengthy because it's just gonna have more information and be more likely to be accurate. However, I just wanna go out and say that 10-bit isn't always a necessity. So if you're a young filmmaker who's looking to get their first camera and maybe a 10-bit camera just is a little too expensive, then you can go with 8-bit, you'll be fine. Just make sure it has decent dynamic range and 4K resolution. And that leads me into my next point, and that is high resolution. Now, everybody talks about 4K, 6K, 8K, 12K, 70K cameras and how much better they are because of their resolution. And when we talk about 12K and 17K, that's a whole nother video and a whole other topic, but let's stick to 6K right now because the Pixis and the Komodo seem to have cemented that as the new gold standard. But why is that? Because every YouTuber on this platform I see talking about 6K says, ooh, you get to crop in. And at the same time, they also say open gate is just simply better. I like my open gate, it's a better look. Nobody wants a Super 35 camera anymore. And it's really hard for me to believe what you're saying when you're disagreeing with yourself and saying that, ooh, 6K is better because you can crop, but I also don't like crop sensor cameras. And it's not that they necessarily don't like it, but they think that full frame is just that much better. And I can't argue with them, it is. But in situations where you have to crop in, like sports or maybe documentary, definitely having that extra resolution is nice. So I think that YouTube might need to straighten itself out there when coming to resolution because it's a lot more complicated than you, the viewer who's just looking to learn a little bit about these new cameras and high resolution may think. However, I will tell you right now, when working with VFX artists, they do appreciate when you hand them a 6K or 8K file. Resolution is very important for that to them. It makes their job easier. It's not that they can't get the job done, just makes their job easier, and who doesn't want to have an easier job? So don't think that 4K is all you need because sometimes it just isn't. Now, the next point that you have been lied to about on YouTube is dynamic range. Now, 13 stops of dynamic range is more than enough for most projects. Not all, but most. However, what you've been lied to about is where dynamic range goes. Most people seem to think that, ooh, more dynamic range equals no clipped highlights, and that's not quite true. More dynamic range actually means you can see deeper into the shadows. This, of course, means that any camera with more dynamic range does have a better low light performance than a camera with less dynamic range. Now, that isn't the end all be all when it comes to seeing in the dark. We all know Sony cameras do reign supreme when it comes to that. However, cameras with more dynamic range coming forward definitely will be able to see a little bit more into the shadows, giving you a little bit of a cleaner noise floor. Now, my fourth and arguably biggest point is camera brands. Now, at this point, all camera brands have kind of almost hit the peak of what I really think they can hit without making really weird AI integrated innovations. All of their flagship cameras are absolutely phenomenal, and there's no arguing that. However, they are very expensive. So where does that leave the rest of us who maybe don't have $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for the newest Canon, Sony, or Blackmagic camera? Well, especially those getting into filmmaking, you kind of look at the bottom of the totem pole. What is the best value for my money? And I'll be honest, Lumix and Nikon own that market. I made a video about Canon, Sony, Lumix, and Nikon's best full frame cameras at their cheapest prices. You can go watch that video up there. But I want to talk about them and exactly why Lumix and Nikon own the market. First, Lumix with their S5. It's a phenomenal camera. If you don't need autofocus and you don't need open gate, it is the best bang for your buck. I promise you, you won't regret buying that camera because it retails for about $650, a little more depending on where you buy it. Now, I also want to talk about the Nikon Z6 II. Over here, I'm shooting on the original Nikon Z6. I love that camera. The Z6 II comes with more video features, comes with in-log, and can record B-RAW via the Blackmagic Video Assist. So does the Lumix S5. Those two cameras are under $1,000. You won't find that with any other brand, unfortunately, with those features and those specs. So you have been lied to. Sony is not the best introductory camera. Canon is not the best introductory camera brand. It is Nikon and Lumix, two brands that seem to have been forgotten about. Nikon is making a resurgence, Lumix is making a resurgence. I hope that their higher end cameras, especially Lumix, get a whole lot better because they are killing it at the game right now after Nikon's acquisition of Red. I think we'll see Nikon take over the market. So if you're looking to become a high-end videographer or cinematographer in the next few years, you might want to be looking at the lower end of the market as well because it is forgotten by YouTubers because those companies don't pay YouTubers to talk about them. My final point in this video is you. People on social media lie. Don't let people on the internet dictate how you think about yourself and you think about your shots. I'll be honest, every time I open YouTube and watch a video and I think, wow, look at this YouTuber absolutely killing it, their shots looks phenomenal, but YouTube is their entire work. They do that full time. These Instagram influencers do it full time. A lot of people like you and I do this full time. We actually make videos. YouTube is a hobby for me. It's something I do on the side to make a little bit of side income because I enjoy it and because I enjoy talking to people on the internet and letting them know some of the information I have, especially to more younger and up and coming videographers and cinematographers. Don't let the people who seem to be at the top and really aren't influence you. They're being paid by companies, and while that's not wrong, so do celebrities, so do singers, so do NBA players and NFL players. It's okay to take money. Don't let them influence you into thinking that you aren't good enough. Remember, a lot of these people have been doing it for decades longer than you have. Keep practicing, keep getting better, and don't ever quit. Until next time.